Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to have some fun because I keep hearing about all of the shortcomings at Milford High, both academically, athletically. So I decided tonight I'm going to put the chief architect in charge on the spot to deal with some of the urban legends that I keep hearing. So before you throw things at the TV and get mad at me, understand that I am taking on topics tonight that I find annoying because I know better, but I keep hearing them. So tonight we're going to ask our chief architect in charge. But first, let's start with an intro.
Hey, ready to rock. Pete Boucher, very proud to be the Milford High School athletic director, and I'll take any questions you have.
Well, I mean, I just love it because I hear, well, Milford's glory days in sports are behind us. We don't have enough athletic teams. They're not doing very well. And the kids who are in the athletic teams aren't going forward to colleges that we are proud of. And when I hear the three of them,
interesting,
I laugh. But let's take one.
Sure.
How many teams did we sport this winter? 1, 2?
To the playoffs?
No, total.
Oh, we had 9 teams. We have 9 teams in the winter. And you know what? Actually, we do like to include our cheer team, so we would call that 10. We have 10 teams per season, so it's easier to say it that way.
But I mean, realistically, when people say we don't have a lot of sports options for our students, 10 teams per season, and you got 2 basketball,
yep,
hockey,
yes,
2
swimming,
2
track and field. We have wrestling. And then you would add that cheer team in, because that's a co-ed team now in many, many schools across the country. Put it all together, you have 10 varsity teams, and then you have sub-varsity. You have your JV for many of those, and then you also have freshmen. We have almost 65, 68 teams total just at the high school through the 3 seasons.
So, and again, I'm getting a kick out of these rumors that there really aren't a lot of opportunities for kids in Milford to participate in athletics.
My response would be, if you want to participate, there's something we can find for you that you're going to enjoy.
68 options seem like there ought to be something for everybody.
I think so. You know, anytime someone talks to me, walking through the halls or in the cafeteria or whatnot, or you catch a kid who's not a student athlete, hey, I want to join, I want to be part of Scarlet Hawk Nation. What are you good at? What do you like to do? That's the first question, because we want you to like or have a little bit of passion or at least be inclined to some sort of activity, but you can always find something for somebody to do. It doesn't matter what body type, what cognitive perspective you have, where you want to compete.
68 teams, I would think there's something.
There is. For me, I would think so too. If you're one person and you have 68 options, yeah, well, we can find something for you to do.
The other rumor I love is, well, the teams just aren't doing as well as they used to. So let's take the 10 or 9 teams we had in the winter.
Yeah, we'll call it 10 because the gals,
now it's the mix.
Co-ed. Yeah, it's the co-ed team. They won the South section in winter. So all 10 teams went to the playoffs. All 10 teams, had to make the playoffs in winter. So
these teams,
there aren't many teams in the Hockomock League that are doing that.
I was going to say, these teams that aren't doing so well.
Yes.
So 10 out of 10
yes, all have winning records
to the playoffs.
Yes, yep, pushing forward. Absolutely. And we're winning in the playoffs too. So, I don't know where that stigmatism comes from. I will tell you that there was a definite first couple of years in this league, a steep learning curve. For whatever reason, there's no question, and I know some people don't like hearing it, but the facts are the facts. The Hockomock League's the best league in Massachusetts comprehensively. It's the deepest league in Massachusetts. There's 12 teams in the Hockomock League. You take the 9th or 10th team in the Hawk, drop them in anywhere.
They could be top in almost every other section.
That's exactly right. You drop them in any other league, and they're going to compete for the top 3 spots, 9th or 10th, sometimes 11th or 12th, depending on the sport. Where, I call the Hockomock League the NFL of high school sports. Any given plug in the day, not Sunday, but any given Tuesday or Friday, depending on your sport, you know what? You got to work hard just to get a couple W's in this league. So the fact that we took all 10 of our teams in winter, put them in the playoffs, which means they had to grind out at least a 500 or above record in this league to get into the playoffs, and then you kind of fly from there. So yeah, I'm not sure, where that, where those conversations are occurring. Come on up to the high school. Come out to a game. You're going to see a good. You're going to see a good product.
When we changed, there was a lot of skepticism as
Yes.
to shouldn't we be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, or is it worth fighting in a Hockomock League?
Yeah, I'll be, and again, being transparent, I wasn't here. I think when I came on board, we were starting our third year in the Hockomock League, and I knew that I knew that it was going to be a challenge to kind of reset the attitude and perspective and the competition and whatnot, because Milford's always been a great sports town. But I will tell you this: our matriculation rate of student athletes to college is really strong right now, and it's one simple reason. Well, there are many reasons, but there's one strong reason. That's the Hockomock League. I've had
Isn't that where we starts to look?
Yes, I've had. So I get to as many collegiate conferences as I can. I can tell you there's 2 or 3 local, really well-known colleges that have said to me off the record, in a private conversation after a conference or a seminar, they'll say it's really simple. If any kid has their name in one of the 12 schools of the Hockomock League and they're applying to our school, they get pulled. We don't even look at their academics. They competed in the Hockomock League. We want our coaches looking at them and basically saying, okay, these guys are from the Hawk. We need to give them a really thorough look, because if there's a chance that
If they can shine in the Hockomock League,
that they're probably going to be okay for our college to compete. Our numbers for student athletes at the college level are 3 times the national average.
making the decision to compete in the Hockomock League,
Yeah.
doesn't that really say something about our coaching staff? Because ego-wise,
Yes.
Every coach is there to win.
Yes.
Now you go to them and say,
You would
okay,
hope. We hope, and that's what we want.
well, but guys, you're going to move out of your nice, comfortable league that you've been dominating. You're going into the lion's den. But it'll be better for the kids, give more opportunity. Can you park your egos aside and accept the fact that a 500 season in the Hawk is so much better, especially for the kids getting noticed and getting scholarships?
No, and that's a good perspective. And I think it's really hard for folks who don't know. I grew up, I competed as an athlete in the Hockomock League in 2 or 3 sports, and then I coached my entire high school coaching career in the Hockomock League. So, I had only observed other leagues, by scouting or just by dropping in. I like to watch hockey. I like to watch basketball. So you go to a game, bring your kids, locally and whatnot. But unless you've coached or competed in this league, you don't know how strong it is. And I'll be very honest with you. I grew up next door. I knew Milford in the 80s and 90s. The Milford, teams of the 80s and 70s, without a doubt, absolutely could have competed in the Hockomock League. We're not saying that, at least I'm not saying, that the traditional old school Milford teams couldn't compete, because they could have. They absolutely could have. Whatever transitions we've gone through and wherever we are before I got here and while I'm here now, and it's a team effort. It's not me, believe me. I'm just the one who's got the microphone. You give me a great opportunity here to talk about it. And our principal and our superintendent as well. But the Hawk has grown into this dominant league. We are winning. We won 3 championship team titles this year. 1 was in the Russell Conference for our hockey co-op. 2 were in the league, swimming. We won boys and girls swimming. Our boys basketball team was in the hunt for the Hockomock League basketball Davenport Division Championship right up until 3 or 4 games to go. So were the girls basketball. Our cheer team dominates. Our softball team dominates. Our football team beat Foxborough and Holliston this year. So we have absolutely, as a group, and this is a testament to our traditional Milfordians, the folks that have been here, that are keeping their kids at Milford High School, that are sending their kids here. It's the new folks that have come on board. I'd love to think that it's partially people like me who feel adopted by the town. I feel like this is a great match for me. I compete with my kids when we're shooting baskets out in our out in our driveway. I don't like to lose. I hate to lose. I hate to lose more than I like to win. So it's been a really great team effort, and I think over the next couple of seasons and next couple of years, you're going to see Milford continue, pun intended, to flex our wings a little bit. We've launched already, and we're just going to grow and grow and grow.
So, number one, 68 teams tells me probably not limited.
I don't think. No, I would disagree with that comment completely.
Number 2, the glory days. I grew up in the 70s at Milford High.
So you know.
Teams were not the weakest teams.
No. Very
But
powerful teams.
a lot of
from my-
people then now are turning around saying, well, the glory days are behind us. But 10 out of 10 in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and deep in the, it's not like, oh God, we got to, to March Madness and we didn't even make it out of the first game.
We had a bye for the boys. Our
Right.
girls won the first round. I mean, we're getting better and better. And are we going to have stumbling blocks? Sure. Are we going to have teams that aren't up to par every once in a while? Absolutely. That's real
Well,
life.
I mean, it's kind of hard to keep 10 for 10.
Absolutely. But we're working hard. The coaches, the
Even
student
some years
athletes.
if you only got 9 for 10, I don't think anybody.
I
Now,
think-
number 3, how are the kids doing when they graduate Milford High? The colleges picking them up?
Absolutely. Like I said, as I mentioned earlier, we're 3 times the national average for the amount of athletes that we send into the NCAA. And whether people want to talk about Division I, Division II, or Division III, as far as I'm concerned, D2 and D3 are right there. I played for a D3 school in my heyday back in the 90s.
But how do you tell the difference? I mean, realistically, I saw Holy Cross get their girls hockey team disqualified for D3 playoffs because they were in a school with D1 facilities.
Right.
But it was still D3.
Still D3, they've got all the components of a D3. They can't give scholarships. They're not allowed to give money.
Right.
There's no
So
fringe
what's the
benefits at all.
difference between a 2 and a 3, really?
The biggest reality is it comes down to this. D2 can give scholarships, and most of them are half or quarter or
They gave a little bit.
a little bit. D3 isn't allowed to give any. And and for me, you're looking at D3, these are the kids that are passionate. They're giving up working. They've got student loans, you name it, ballooning, but they still want to compete, and they're good enough to compete on a collegiate team, which is about 3 to 4% of the high school population. So if you got 400 kids per season, which is about what we average, you'll be lucky if 12 of those kids
A
go
dozen
on.
of the kids can
Yeah.
really compete.
We're averaging 30 to 40 a year that are playing in the NCAA. And they have all along. Milford's always, I've done as much research, I've talked to Rich Pergustavo, I've talked to Nick Sakili. We've always sent people above the national average. So that's something that Milford has always done.
And see, to me, I love that they do well at high school sports. But the real measure is, are they getting into schools?
Yes.
Because let's face it, we have a number of kids who are, their parents have done well enough that they can afford to buy in.
Sure.
But we have a lot of kids who can't afford to go to top schools at 60 grand a year
Yeah. Yep.
if they don't get some help.
Sure. Some people don't make that a year, and that's what, that's a college
I
tuition.
remember when 78, I was amazed that at Holy Cross it was $6,200 for the year.
Yep.
And I looked at it and I said, how does my mom and dad, mom worked as a drill press operator in Drapers.
Yep. Yep.
My father had landed a job at General Motors, so that was the big thing, is he made almost 20 grand a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat there and said, how do they come up with
time.
6 grand a year? Yet they scrimped and saved and somehow put
Were
it
able to push you
together
through, right?
so
Yeah.
I could get through without loans. And I was very fortunate that my parents dedicated their life to me.
To that, yeah, for sure.
But a lot of parents have, like you say, if you're at a school like Holy Cross at 65 a year and you got 2 or 3 kids, you could.
It's huge. You're not going to be able to cover that.
Oh, my
No,
Lord.
you're not.
You could do everything in the world and not eat. You still couldn't.
No,
How many of us could come up with 150 grand a year? Hello.
Not me. To be honest with you,
But
right now.
if we're opening up the opportunities for the kids, A, to play at a Division I, Division II, where they can get some help, or B, they have a passion and they want to play college sports and they're good enough,
Yeah.
and a Division III team's picking them up. Boy, I'm excited.
No, and that's fantastic. And one of the things that I mentioned to the kids and to the families is, if you're looking at a D3 situation, because most of our D3 kids we would put in what we call a 2-3 category. They're good enough to probably be recruited by a Division II, and they might just land at a D3. And that's because they, one of the things I say to the kids is, don't go to a school for the sport. Go because educationally it's what you want to do, because you're one injury away from being done.
Right.
We all are, right? And 2, you need a major. You need to graduate from college with something that you want to
12
pursue.
kids out of the whole school go on to play college sports.
Well, that's the national average,
Well, I'm
3
just
or
saying,
4%.
we
yes.
get 3 dozen.
Yep.
How many of them professionally survive? So you take out of the 30 kids,
Yeah.
1, if we're lucky.
Oh, if and that's national average too. That's 1 is spectacular.
Right.
You can get 1
If you
kid.
get 1 out of 30.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, I love, when you first came on the show, you said, I have student athletes.
Yes.
And I said, thank you for keeping it in that order.
We always talk about it that way.
They could be athletes for 8 years. They're going to be workers for a lot longer.
For 80 or 90, depending on whatever they can
they're going
crank
to be a lot
out.
longer. So
Yes.
if they don't have, as you say, a major, if they come out without having a viable skill,
Not a good place to be. It's not. You're not setting yourself up for success, and that's what we talk about all the time. We do have meetings with the kids who are talking about moving on, and we're actually going to try and have a seminar this year in the spring for college, for juniors, getting ready for the recruiting process, recruiting for academic scholarships as well as athletic scholarships, and basically saying they're very scarce. So if you want to commit, and I strongly encourage that because, I was lucky enough to run in college, and that's the sport that I was probably the most efficient and proficient at. After 1993, it was over. It was over for me. I ran semi-pro for a year or two. Plain and simple, I wasn't fast enough. So I wasn't going to make money on my heart and my legs. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a coach. So luckily, I had good advice at the time saying, find something you love to do, buddy. You're fast, but you're not that fast. And it was great advice. And that's what we want to prepare the kids for is, compete. Compete for an academic situation, compete for a job. So one of the things we've done over the 4 or 5 years that I've been here is say, we are openly and actively embracing competition. We all compete. No matter what you want to do, we compete for parking spots, we compete for lines at Target to get it, and we're competing for academia, we're competing for grades. We compete. Let's just say.
My cousin put it in perspective when he was kicking for Milford High, because he came over from our little village in Portugal. And back then, he was one of the first soccer-style kickers.
Oh, okay, cool, very cool.
And when Zé Francisco could kick one from 50 yards out,
people
40,
took notice.
Oh God! So in Milford High, it was amazing. He parlayed that into a full boat at Brown.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, how can you?
And then he said, he goes, Alberto, it's really interesting, because I used to be the smug SOB that I'd let everybody kick. Then I'd kind of
Then you come in at the
come
end.
in about 5 yards behind them.
Yeah.
Or 10 yards and kick over them.
Yep.
They'd move back. I'd move back.
Yep.
And no matter how far they moved back, I just
kept moving back.
kept moving back. Till
Larry Bird, I like that. That's his mentality.
And then he goes, same thing happened in college. I could outkick them all. So Brown gave me a full scholarship.
Think about that
He
opportunity.
goes, so I decided I should go try these professional thing, these patriot people. He said, and all of a sudden, I am kicking my heart out, and there's half a dozen smart asses
behind me, right?
Behind me.
Yeah, yep.
And I remember, because they were saying, come on.
Yeah.
And that's
Let's
when
go,
I
buddy.
realized, I better get good grades. And he was vice president at Johnson & Johnson. He parlayed the scholarship
That
into a career.
opportunity.
But
into
I
a
sat there and I
lifestyle.
said, he understood. Because it was a rude awakening, he says, for the first time ever,
Yep.
to look over my shoulders. Nobody's supposed to be back there.
Yeah, and there's 6 or 7 guys back there trying to make the team. No, it's a good linchpin for everybody to keep that in mind. We listen. Everybody in the middle school and early high school years thinks they're going to get a scholarship. They all do, and they should be striving for that. That's great. It's an awesome dream. Have a backup plan, is what we tell people. Dream big.
We've
You're going to
talked
dream
about
big.
it on the academic side, where I sit there and say, was there any doubt that I had the most beautiful, most intelligent, most kid? Of course not. They're my kids.
Right.
It's like when they first started playing a musical instrument. I thought it was symphonic.
Yes. Music to your ears and
Of course,
everybody else,
if I was
right?
objective, it really sounded like they were pulling the tail off small farm animals.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
It was
I remember.
horrible, but it was when they went on stage. It was Broadway.
That's right.
Right? My
And it
daughter
should be.
was
It should
a
be.
rock. 4 performances the whole family went to watch. It was either a rock or a mouse. I don't know. She was on stage. We were excited. But then reality hits where you sit there and say, okay, guys, let's plan for success.
Right.
let's make sure that we blend in the athletics, but that we understand the future
Right.
for 99.99%.
We're going to have to find something else
academics.
to do. Yes, yeah, we got to find
So-
something else to do.
We got some teams that amazed me. I mean, when we first started out Milford High back in the 70s with hockey, nobody counted it. And we thought it was kind of okay. So we took on teams like Franklin, actually beat them, and we thought the world was.
Yeah.
Then we went closer to Boston and realized how much we had to learn.
Yes. Yep.
But when my daughters were in school, the hockey team, I'd say struggling when they barely could have 3 lines of kids.
Yep.
But I hear that it's not that way anymore.
Well, you know what? We one of the things that I committed to when I arrived was we had a hockey team, and I did my research and spoke to anybody and everybody I could, as much as I could. Was that it was a struggle to get hockey back and to keep hockey for about a decade or so. First year or two here, hockey did really well. We won our first playoff game. That was my understanding. Lost to the eventual state champions 3-1 that year. Next year, we have 8 or 9 guys. And and everybody out there that knows anything about hockey, you got to have about 20. You got to have 3 lines of forwards and at least 2 lines of defense people.
If you don't have 2
maybe
lines
3.
of defense, they're dying.
Yeah, they're gassed, right? So we ended up having to get an 8th grade waiver. We had 3 boys who fit the bill as far as size and skill.
That's palatable. You're not asking the coach to put his ego aside or her ego aside.
No.
When you say you're going to take in a couple youngsters on your 3rd line. But now
they got to be workhorses.
But even then, I say, now you sit there and say, for the betterment of the program and the kids, we're going to ask them to take a bitter pill, that we're going to ask them not to just have Milford kids. How did that go over?
Well, one of the things that it came down to is we really got into a situation where we could not field a team again. We had 12 boys suit up for that season. And I will tell you, 26 years of coaching, multiple teams, championship teams, state championship teams. I'm as proud of that team as I was of any of the state championship teams I ever coached, because they never quit, not for a second. They went 0-18, but I'll tell you what, that 17th and 18th game that they suited up, you wouldn't know it. You didn't know they were 2-15 going into those games. They were so fired up. They were just happy to be playing hockey that you couldn't help but get excited. And the funny thing was, they kept us in the games till the 3rd period. They were gassed. You get a penalty, now we're in big trouble. So it was sort of a defining moment for all of us. We knew that 12 kids, couple graduating, 6 or 7 were coming back. We could not field a team. So I committed to, at that time, I said to our administration and I said to our hockey teams, our hockey family, I'm going to find a place for us to play hockey. I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to give you 110% so that if any kids at Milford High want to play hockey, they're going to have the option. And I'll be honest, I didn't know what the answer was going to be yet, but I knew I was going to work hard at it. And so we ended up looking at a couple co-ops, and the Hopedale-Millis co-op at the time made the most sense. I'm not sure they wanted us. I had no idea, So I checked in. They were looking. They felt like they could absorb 10 to 12 kids maybe. We gave them 12. So it all worked out. Everything comes together. This was last year. 12 kids from Milford signed up. We had 1 gal, which I thought was awesome. She was the backup goalie, Jessica Stansberry. Her brother's a really good player. And we joined, and that team makes the playoffs for the first time. So Hopedale, Millis, Milford now, all the conglomerate of the colors, they call us Captain America, we're red, white, and blue. So that's fun. We felt like we were onto something. So we investigated at the end of the season. Every year we do this now. Are we viable? Can we survive on our own? And one of the biggest things that we have to take into consideration, and this was our biggest challenge when we had those 12 boys, it's not about winning or losing. It's about can we field a safe team? Can we keep these kids, first of all, physically safe? Yeah. And then can we keep everybody?
You put 10 kids on 12 on a team, physically, somebody's going to get hurt.
Well, that was our concern. 1 or 2 kids get hurt, we're not going to be able to finish out the rest of the season.
It's not even finishing the season. I mean, I've seen it
It's not fair to those kids.
where come the third period when we were playing against kids,
Yeah.
I finally gave up when I turned 60. First period, okay, come on. Second, third period, somehow they engineered the ice
Yeah.
because I was skating uphill.
Yeah. Somehow you always got
I was
the
skating
angle.
uphill. And you sit there and say, that's when I found myself pulling where I shouldn't pull
Yep.
because I was just physically exhausted.
You're being asked to do too much.
But
even
you
though-
didn't want to let your team down.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I can see where you sit there and say, unless they have a full roster, I'm just worried about the health of my players.
Yeah, and that's what we came to the conclusion. So we left that year and we had 8 kids who wanted to play the next year, which is this year. So it made sense to stick with the co-op for this year. We actually ended up with 11 or 12 kids. That team, captained by Aiden Wild, one of the captains, scored over 100 points in his 3-year career. I think he ended
30
up with
points a year?
and he didn't play sophomore year. So he averaged 33, 34. He ended up with 107, 108 goals, points, that is. Phenomenal. And he's not going to play hockey in college. He's playing baseball. Scholarship to Stonehill. Unbelievable. So, just the sort of the genesis and the evolution. So now each year we're looking at that hockey team and saying, how do we plan for the future? Well, one of the things that we're really struggling, because we have a very strong middle school hockey. They're not affiliated with us, but they're middle school age kids and families. Really excited about what they're bringing to the table. Some of them are talking about coming to the high school. The problem is, that's how we got into trouble when we had the 12 kids. A bunch of people said they were matriculating to the high school, and they ended up elsewhere. So we had 18 or 19, so we went with it. And then when the season opened up, guess what? We had 12. So this is my master plan, and I'll be very honest with the folks out there. We are looking to most likely co-op next year. We think we have a very strong freshman class coming in. I'm going to encourage them to play in the co-op next year for Milford, Hopedale and Millis. And if we get to a point where we have 15, 16, 18 kids, we'll break away. And I've told the head coach and the principal over at Hopedale.
We almost have to because you don't want to turn away 4 or 5 Milford kids.
No.
Because there's no spots for them.
Right. So we think that's kind of like our 2-year plan. Next year, we really think the best thing to do for the safety of the kids, freshmen, I really am not comfortable saying that we're going to take a group of freshmen with a junior goalie, who's an all-star, by the way, Matt Shaver, amazing goalie. But to put him out there with, what would arguably 99% freshmen playing, offense and defense, forward and defense in the Hockomock League, Canton, Franklin, King Philip, North Attleboro's got really strong.
You don't want him looking like the goalie on Slapshot.
No, yes. They're screening me. And I don't want those freshmen playing junior and senior kids in this league.
Yeah.
Because then what's going to happen? Okay, let's say we do it, then their confidence level is probably going to shrink. So we're protecting them from many levels.
You had a young lady playing goal.
Yes. She's
How
our backup.
cool.
Yeah, backup. She got some time last year and this year. Very proud of her. Great, feisty little kid. She's ready to do anything you ask her to do to be competitive.
And
so
there you look
we
at
love that.
Division II schools are looking for good players.
Female hockey players, absolutely. Yep.
There's a lot of sports where female athletes have to really compete against a wide berth of people. Hockey goalies, hockey players seem to be in demand.
Absolutely.
So if I'm looking, saying, how do I save myself $250,000?
Yeah. Put the pads on.
Put the pads on.
Yep. Take a few shots. See if you like it. See how quick you are. See how aggressive you can be.
I remember when we had a young lady playing on my soccer team, and the dad, very old European, old Portuguese, and when he showed up, she lit up and played that, the extra gas was in the tank.
Another 2 or 3%, right?
But, he said, it's only women's soccer. I looked and said, you must be doing extremely well financially. And he says, what do you mean? I said, you're giving up $200,000.
Yeah. Yep.
He goes, what do you mean? I said, your daughter, if she plays at the level that she does when you're here, would easily qualify for a scholarship. Now, those are worth $40,000, $50,000 a year. I guess if you're doing that well financially that you don't need the money.
I don't know too many people that don't want to save 200 G's.
He started showing up at every game from then on.
Yeah, to really spark her. That's a great, it's a good place to
be.
be.
Come on, let's be serious. I wanted to slap them and say, you should do it because it's your daughter.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, forget about the money.
Forget about the money, but if that doesn't turn you on, she could qualify for a real scholarship.
Yeah, another opportunity, right? You know?
So now we have a co-ed cheerleading team.
Yes.
How cool is that?
I got to tell you, it's for me, you know, seeing the evolution of cheerleading really turn into cheer teams and really these competitive dance teams. And, you know you can call me a homer. I think you're a little bit of a homer as well. The Milford, we got a little,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and that's okay. But I have to tell you, we truly are, our cheer team, we're a step above everybody else. It's, I love, and I'm not even joking because the coaches and the team know this, I love going to away cheer competitions because you usually got to drive 45 minutes an hour, Whitman Hanson or whatever, but I promise you, I'll show up, I'll watch a couple of teams ahead of us, I'll watch our team, you know, they always walk outside and talk about how they did, and I said, hey guys, ladies, gentlemen, thanks, I'm out of here. Yep. And 2 years ago, one of them said, why are you leaving? Don't you want to wait and see? I said, I don't need to wait. We won, it's over. You know, I mean, I just watched like this collegiate style competitive dance team, the stunts, the jumping, the throws, unbelievable.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that the cheering on the sidelines is kind of like, that's what you pay
Yes.
to be able to do
Yes.
the competitive activities.
You know what, that's a really good point. It's two very different situations. You know, when they're there for the football team or the basketball team, that's more for support and really for just being loud and proud. But when they go to their competitions, that's where they sort of flip the switch.
They become the athletes.
And that's a really good point. We talk about that a lot at school committee because if somebody hasn't seen them, I encourage them, you know, go to a competition or watch them on Milford TV because you know, they're at nationals, they're at, you know, states, and they're just killing it. They're destroying it. They really are that good. Coach Heather, just an awesome, fantastic, pinnacle head coach. Just knows what she's looking for. You know, she's got the support network. She's got the feeder program.
And she gets away. I mean, I remember when she was doing All-Stars.
Yes. Yep.
She pulled stuff that if I ever did when I was coaching soccer, I would have gotten hurt. It's 6 o'clock. It's getting dark. She has us turning the lights on.
Yeah.
Down in Fino.
Not done yet.
Not done yet. I looked and said, if I ever pulled that, the mothers would beat me.
Absolutely.
But somehow,
you know, and I think what happens is, you know, success breeds tolerance and success, you know, and you've got to build it to that situation where you can then from there say, this is now how we do things. This is what we do. This is our style. This is our, you know, this is our chemistry and this is our DNA. And she has that, you know.
And somehow, I think we've gone over where, oh, you're a cheerleader to a guy. I sat there and said, you know, when my daughter was cheering, I said, was I stupid? I spent half my high school trying to get near these beautiful, intelligent, you know, socially aware people.
Sure.
If I had gone out for cheering and made it, you would have forced me for 20 hours a week to be
hanging out with all these guys. It's not a bad idea, is it?
You know, I just sat there and said, I missed something.
These guys are ahead of their time.
Yeah, I just missed something because, you know, the stereotype that was put on there, well, these guys were smarter than I ever was.
Absolutely, ahead of the curve. And you know what? They're so athletic and strong. The stunting that they do, the things that they have to be able to put together, and the gymnastic piece of what we do alone. All of the gals and guys can do these flips, and every time they do it, I just sit there and hope and pray and say, oh boy, don't get hurt. You know, and all of a sudden,
I got to admit, when Emily got a little bit bigger, I was happy that she didn't qualify as a flyer anymore.
Yes, yeah.
There were kids. When I
Every
saw what they
time.
were doing, especially at the college level, I was like, oh my God. A base is a good thing.
Yeah, base is fine. We're good. You're just as important as the people flying through the air.
But I'm
like
not
Ringling
watching you
Brothers.
go splat.
Every time you have. But that's how good they are. They make it look easy and they make you feel more at ease watching them when every single move they make in every single competition, 30 to 35 pieces of it put together, and, you know, knock on wood, nobody gets hurt, and it's so precise and so good.
Heather's
Just
been
excellent.
doing it a while.
Yeah, 16 years I think is our head
I was
coach.
going to say, because when my youngest was just going out for cheerleading. It was the Johnsons. It was Heather and Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, 12 years later. It's still Heather.
Yeah, trying to keep her, trying to hold on to her.
Now, I saw something, again, from an inclusionary standpoint that made me feel really proud of Milford, because it's not just athletics for the typical kids. I mean, something new and exciting is happening in the hall for the Special Olympics.
Yes, yes. Talking about the our trophy case coming in?
Yeah.
Yes, we're really excited. That's something that I'm going to be brutally honest. There's 376 high schools in Massachusetts. I don't think anybody else is. And when I say nobody, I don't think anybody is doing what we're doing.
Well, see, I've been looking around, and I might see in the corner of
Yes.
a vast array of trophies.
Tiny little corner, right?
Tiny little corner. It's
Yes.
kind of like, okay,
Yep.
somebody forced me to put that in. But tell the viewers what's happening.
So we've been really fortunate. I'm going to ask you to expand a little bit because I know you have some knowledge of the situation, but we were fortunate to have a couple of benefactors come our way and talk about could we, in our athletic foyer, which is really quite inviting and somewhat intimidating if you're not from Milford. That's the one thing I like to talk about sometimes is, how powerful the Milford experience is. I've been in Canton, I've been at King Philip, and I've been in the college ranks for a little while coaching and as an athletic director. So I think one of the refreshing perspectives I can bring is that I've been in the Hockomock League, so I've competed in 8 or 9 other schools religiously all the time, and then all of the playoff experience that I was fortunate enough as a player and as a coach. And, Milford just does it differently, man. And I'm not saying that because I'm here. It's one of the reasons I went so feverishly after this job was that Milford does 2 things that other people don't do. It's people power and it's finances. If you can prove to the powers that be that this is going to be good for kids, it gets done in this town. Where in other towns, and I hate saying this out loud, but in other towns they'll say, well, go ahead, make it happen and we'll see at the end. And you get almost to the finish line, okay? You 0.2 away from your marathon finish and, we couldn't find the money. Or, hey, you know what? We can't get people to come on Saturday to help you build this new press box that we were planning. Sorry, we just couldn't get the materials donated. That doesn't happen here. So when this idea to have a trophy case of its own put into our athletic foyer at the back of the school, I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was phenomenal to just have it set aside in the middle, glass, so that and there's, honestly, we don't know what to do with all the Special Olympics and the unified trophies that we have. So there's no room for them. So we really do need this sort of standalone situation, which we're hoping to be able to put in.
And I think that's the part I'm most proud of, is when I look at our unified kids, because you're bringing everybody together.
Yeah.
I look at our Special Olympics kids. They're no more special, but no less special than the other athletes we have.
Yep.
So,
and that's what we want. That's what we want. We
That's
want
the whole
everybody to be
point.
part of the same situation, just even playing field.
Pete, I got 4,200 kids in the system. When I look at it,
Yeah. Yep.
we got 4,200 that are our kids. And when you sit there and say, okay, what a nice way of saying, okay, if you walk in and you're going to play basketball, oh my God, look up there, all the success they've had.
Yep.
Look to the right, look at the Hall of Fame. Look to the left, look at the cheerleading. And nobody's kidding anybody when you say that doesn't have an effect.
No, it does. When you walk in, you see, and they actually had to add, right when I got here, long before me, they had to add another shelf for all the tournament and state championship trophies because there wasn't room from the previous years, our past, our tradition. They didn't have room for them. So they had to build another level.
When the new mayor of the Heights came in, I mean, God, he said it. He goes, we have enough monuments to the mayors, enough places where our names are carved.
Yeah.
What can we do for the kids? So when he went up and started talking to you and Kevin and came up with this idea that wouldn't it be nice that when you walk in that main foyer, that there it is.
Right there. Right.
And by the way,
right in
when
the face.
you look up, right above it are all the trophies for
Yes.
the typical sports.
Yep.
And all it says is...
Talk about inclusion, right?
Yeah, all it says is, yep, they're part of us.
And that's
I
exactly
love it.
and that's exactly where it should be. So we're very thankful for that. And I think That's going to be probably finalized in the spring.
Yes.
And we'll be really excited to unveil that, get some pictures out there.
But
get it
along
on
with what you
social media.
said, this is the typical Milford. We already put the money aside.
It's all
The
good.
money's there.
Now it just has to be built. That's
Now
it.
let's implement it.
Yeah, yep. And I again, there isn't a school district, I've been in this Massachusetts a long time doing this since age 13, hitting 48 really soon. So, that's a long time of knowing it, and I really do believe I know at least one or two professionals at every high school. I will tell you, I don't think anybody's doing this. Everywhere I've been since that project was brought to the forefront for Milford High School, I've looked around. Nobody has anything like that.
Well,
Nobody's thinking of this.
Hopefully you'll be around when we have the next step. When you think about, we just finished 2 years ago putting Woodland to where it should be.
Yes.
And that year we put away
Very
money in
powerful.
the stabilization account. And people came up and said, why are we doing that? I said, there's a school coming. He
Yep.
said, you've been saying that for the last 8 years. I said, no, I've been saying it for the last 16. Because the first time we said it was for Brookside.
Yep. Yep.
Then it was for Woodland. In 8 or 10 years, there's a school coming, because I believe Milford High, from a foundation point of view, you couldn't ask for a more solid.
No, and I agree 100%. And this is where that other perspective from coming from other districts I think is really important. So King Philip and Canton were built before Milford High School, and they were both rebuilt in the early 2000s, 2006 and 2007. So this building has done everything that you could possibly ask it to do. It is, it's starting to give way at this point, and I think,
But I don't see where, number one, there would be no place to build a new high school. When you think about what we did with Brookside, we had to build half a new school just to temporarily hold the kids.
Right.
Where would you put 1,200 athletes and students?
Well, here's the thing. I will tell you this. I am not an architect, but I will say that one of the really intelligent things they did with King Philip, they had the same challenge. They had a very, very minimal space on that campus. So what they did is, instead of building it in a year, took 2 or 3 years, 2.5 years. So they built certain pieces and quads and and as you build one, you close one.
Right.
You knock it out.
And that's what we've said for academics, build a new wing,
Yep.
close a wing, move them in.
Yep.
But along the same line, I want to see a field house.
So do I.
When I go to
be honest with you, so do
Shrewsbury,
I.
I sit there and say, wow, our kids ought to have this.
Yep. I mean,
So maybe someday soon?
I'll tell you what, I'm on the building committee, which has done a tremendous job, and I think and I'm not just saying this, it's one of the best and most thought-provoking committees I've ever been on in my time in education, as a principal, as a K-12 wellness director, as an athletic director. There are townspeople, there are educational people, there are finance people, you name it, and there's a constituency that is represented. And I am hopeful. I will say it out loud. I am hopeful that the high school is chosen. I know I haven't been here forever, but I'm hoping I'm here for a long time.
It's going to be another
It's
8
time.
years.
It's time.
Because let's face it, Milford can not easily, because we could do anything that we needed to, but there's no need to rush into renovating the high school.
No, I don't think there's a rush, but I do think that
8
we
years,
have to
10 years,
strategic planning.
when the Massachusetts SBA says it's time and we'll pay half,
We'll take half.
we'll have
In a
the money
heartbeat.
put away, because this year again, we'll have a surplus. We'll put a little bit of money away.
I will add this. I got to tell you, and I, people might get sick of hearing this. I wouldn't if I was a Milfordian. I would not get sick of hearing this. One of the things I've noticed too, from again growing up in those other 2 districts and spending so much time, is nobody runs a town like Milford. Nobody. And I live in a different town. So when you're talking 3 or 4 different districts where I have vast experience, nobody is as economically efficient and savvy as this town.
Yeah, but again,
People care. People
about
plan.
it. It starts in the school system with the teachers.
It does.
Because when we go in and say, look, this is how much we have. And, it's almost that time of year when we're going to sit there and say, okay, finance committee, we are broke. We're destitute.
Check the pockets.
Right? And the school comes in and says, oh, we need a 99% increase. Yeah, Now, reality
Yeah.
will be 2-point-something% on the normal budget. We'll fund SPED and ELL separately because
Yep.
too many towns dump it all together. And when
Huge.
SPED goes up,
Brilliant.
you take away from the typical kids,
Right.
and you're like, wait a minute, that's not fair.
Yep. That's
We'll pay for the mortgage.
99% of the schools do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And who suffers? The typical
Your
kids.
mainstream kids. Yes. Yep.
So we'll do that again, and then we'll take some of the
Smart.
extra money, because hopefully this year we'll have enough money put away. And we'll have to go through the mating ritual where the Parks Department and the School Department come together
Yes.
and say, okay, we've put away $1 million to turf a field. Which field in town are we going to turf? And how do we get over the fact that if we turf it in the high school, then the Parks Department has to be guaranteed some access?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
You know, it can't be,
Yep.
okay, the school department owns it.
No.
But on the other hand, Parks Department, you got to understand you can't have 100%.
No, and I have to say, I think if we were to poll the folks that were involved with youth sports here, I think they would say we're doing a really good job, especially with Woodland.
And-
we are really working collaboratively,
And that's
the,
what
and the
matters.
high school too.
And wouldn't it be nice if that backfield all of a sudden got turfed and laid down with lights?
That would be my choice, and because that would. Let's say this. I'll tell you, we are the only high school in Massachusetts. We have people lining up right now for soccer, and I'll tell you. And I know you know why, but I'm going to share it for the viewers, right? So we will play high school soccer at night at the high school. Okay, so our varsity team at the high school. We will take our JV and put them at Pheno, and we'll take our freshman team and put them at night on Woodland. Now, how many JV teams have ever played a night soccer game? How many freshmen?
Freshmen?
Zero.
None.
Zero. I'm not joking when I say I have 17 or 18 offers for next year. We'll play you at night. We'll bring all 3 teams, boys or girls. You tell us what night. We'll play you Sunday night at 10 p.m. We don't care.
Wouldn't it be nice now if you had another full 11v11?
Yes. Then we
And-
could do, wow. That'd be,
And now it's just a matter of which field.
yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
We've been going every year when the youth center came up, and we had to come up with a couple $1 million of unexpected money there. The dream of building a new soccer, football, multi-use field, lacrosse, went away. So we talked to the Parks Department. We said, look, you work with us,
Yes.
and as long as we have surpluses, we'll put a couple
See,
hundred.
that's brilliant. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody, and if they've thought of it, they can't get everybody to come together to do that. But we have this saying now within our coaching staff when other teams will say, how did you get lights for 3 fields? And they're so excited, and we're excited too. But we're proud to say, welcome to Milford. We want to get
exactly.
T-shirts to say welcome
Welcome
because
to
we're so
Milford.
different in a very good and powerful way.
So now all of a sudden this year we're going to debate which field we spend $1 million, and the Parks Department came
What a
back
great
and
place to
said,
be.
any way we can get an extra couple hundred and do it at night? And I said, well, year 1, you may have to lay down all the conduit and all
Yep.
and not have lights. Year 2, the minute we have a couple 100,000 extra,
Put it in there.
just like we did Pheno Field.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's a fantastic plan. I don't know anybody that would balk at that.
And all of a sudden we're going to end up with another full, because soccer fields especially. I mean, football field, 100 yards, I mean, you're a given.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You don't have any real leeway.
No.
Soccer can go all over the place. So
Yeah,
you
there's-
want a full
No,
11v11.
Yeah, because you want a full 11v11 because then you can crop it. The lines are there to go 9v9 or 6v6.
Yeah, I can go 2 this way or 1
Yeah,
this way.
Yep. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. The leeway and the flexibility is just gargantuan.
So tell me about swimming. Swimming did pretty good.
It's funny because we are in the small school division in the Hockomock, and we do compete against we do cross over against the upper division, the schools that have 1,600, 1,800. Taunton has 2,100 kids. Ended up the champions this year, with both boys and girls. What does that stem from? Tradition, okay? Swimming is big in Milford, as it should be. We're one of only 2 schools in the Hockomock League to have a pool. We host, and this is by the league voting, we host the Hockomock League Championships every year because we have the venue. The Milford folks had the foresight to put in that balcony that holds 3 or 4 times the amount that Attleboro can hold, so it's a no-brainer for us to hold it. We also have the coaching staff, in my opinion, our three coaches, Coach Janasco, Coach Oliver Michalewski, and Coach Chappie. Coach Chappie's forgotten more than most good coaches know.
Chappie's been there forever.
Yeah.
He was there when I was there.
Yep. He's retired from teaching, but I said to him, you know what, man, you can't go, you can't ride off
Chappie,
into
if you
the
think you're
sunset.
going to retire, I'm going to send the kids to your house.
Yes.
With
Yep.
candles.
Uh-huh.
That'll keep you from doing it.
But you know what? This was a special year. The boys and the girls were just committed. They were committed to winning. You know, and the cold hard reality is, and I say this with all due respect, we didn't have that superstar that we've had. You know, the Bradleys and the Maddie Garbers and the Nick Antonellises. And I say those names with great respect.
Sure.
You know, I know all of them and have. Listen, I'd love to be them. I'd love to be swimming as fast.
It's the same thing when you think of softball. For years, Sean's daughters, I mean, you had one
The best of
pitcher,
the best.
don't worry
Best of the
about it.
best.
You know, that's it.
Put a couple of good people around it, and they were fortunate to have great people around her. Believe me,
But then I hear
watched
that
some of those games.
Milford, strange team, had 50 or 55, 40, whatever. It was close to half and half. Two great pitchers.
Yes, yeah, yep. You jump to that, and you're right. It was 55% of the innings and 45% of the innings between Allie and Kelly. Yeah.
I mean,
Allie ends up being the Boston Globe Player of the Year, our starting pitcher, but Kelly, we interchanged.
The
multiple-
number two in most towns gets to pitch, what, 8 innings a year? I'm joking. But
No. You do. You don't get, because you know in softball with the physiology, you don't get the shoulder strain. It's
you
enough.
just keep going.
Absolutely. So it's a rare opportunity for the number two to pitch. But Coach DeVito, Coach Walsh, they manage those two gals very well. So that.
But what a wonderful thing that I hate to
Postseason.
say we lose one
Yeah.
to graduation.
Yep.
Dang, they grow up.
Unfortunately, we would have loved to have kept
And what
her.
do you?
believe
What
me.
have you really lost?
I mean, here's the cold hard reality. You know, I always talk about reloading. I don't like the word rebuild. This team has reloaded. One of the things that we're watching for is depth. We've had 9 gals coming back from that state championship team from last year. So, you know, they're working on conditioning mentally and physically, and if they stay healthy, some of the young gals will get their turn in certain games because we're that darn good. We're going to have to put them in for certain games, and it's just good to do that. But when this team loads up and puts our best kids on the field,
Well, when you lose the starting pitcher, and no disrespect, and number 2 steps up and you say,
yeah, bring it on.
wow.
That's a great place to be. That's
Yeah,
a
I was
great
gonna say,
place to be.
How many towns around us could say, I lost my starting pitcher because she
And we're still
went
gonna
on and
compete.
grew up and went to college?
Yeah, and is now actually as a freshman pitching for them. Southern New Hampshire, New Hampshire,
Pretty amazing.
not a bad place to be.
And yet we ran like heck too this winter.
Yes, yep. We, well, you really did some homework. You know what you're talking about. I think we broke 18 or 19 records. And we've had good track and field athletes at this school. We just have the great fortune of having some excellent coaches like we've always had. But this crop of track and field kids has just been unbelievable. You know, you could start throwing names around. We've got, multiple kids going to D1 schools. Patrick Bajoli, Jack Khalil, all going D1. You have Leanne Kibbe, you have Christina Speliakos, who are going D1. Where, how about this? You get first place in the hurdles at the state level, and then your next best runner gets second.
Yeah.
You go 1 and 2, and then, in the long jump, we go 1, 3, and 6. And a freshman gets 6th place.
But this is 1, 3, and 6 in the,
in the
state.
Not just the league.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
No, I'm with you.
I would be
It's
impressed
exciting.
if you
It's exciting.
posted 1, 3, and 6 in the Hawk.
Yes. Yep.
But you're sitting there saying, no, this is amongst
the-
300 schools.
Yeah. Yep.
And some of the schools are a little bit bigger than us.
A little bigger than us, but you know what? We welcome to Milford.
Because you
man.
talk about schools, like an Attleboro or somewhere, just genetics works against you because they can pick from 2,000 kids. We can
Yep.
pick from 1,000.
Yep. And you know what's awesome about this place is we don't make excuses. We rarely. This is probably the only time all year long that I've talked about enrollment. We don't talk about how Taunton has the 8th grade at the high school. They have 2,150 kids. Means they got 1,100, a little less than that on each side of the gender, right? So, but we basically say, hey, you know what? We got to play them once or twice, depending on the sport. Bring it. What do you want to play? Is it Taunton? Is it Milford? Meet you in the middle. whatever. And our kids don't make excuses. Our coaches don't make.
But that's a heck of a life lesson.
It's huge. That's
You know,
that's
that-
the real world, right?
You know,
When you're
we
interviewing
had
for a
this whole
job.
discussion about the gender ceiling and all. And, you know, my 16 girls that played soccer, I just taught them. Somebody gets in your way, work harder, work smarter.
That's it.
Complaining about it is a waste of good
Not
oxygen.
going to work.
Run them over.
Yep.
And when
Do
they
something
when
about
they
it,
played
right?
in the boys' league in soccer, boy, they got a hard lesson at first, but
Yep.
they adapted, and we did rather well.
Yep. Best thing for
And
you.
now when I look, I'm really proud at how they're progressing in life, because nothing gets in their way. You don't hear them,
Nope.
you know, the whining. It's like, okay, you know, the old adage, yeah, I got plenty of cheese. You're bringing the wine, done.
Because you know what? And I always quote Bill Parcells because he always used to say, in any team that he coached, he said, if you give players a reason to complain or make an excuse,
They'll take it.
they'll take it.
Yeah.
And they'll use it, you know. And I'll quote Mike Walsh. Mike Walsh, all the school committee meetings I went to, he had a great saying. He said, you know, sports doesn't just teach rules and competing. Sports teaches life lessons. And we're all right when
And
we
that's
talk
what
about
counts.
that,
But you know, when I think about it, there's a scholarship. One of the mayors up at the Heights brought up that. Is it Joe Stoico? That
Yep.
They give a scholarship to
Yes.
the special athletes. And he was really excited about having that scholarship shown in the new trophy case.
Absolutely.
And when I thought about it, I said, you know, this is just more of welcome to Milford.
Welcome
it's
to
not
Milford.
just Pete. It's not just
No.
Kevin. Every little part of the town rallies around
Yep.
the kids.
No, and you know what? And I hope people just feel authentic when we say that because, you know, I would consider myself a relatively smart guy. I'm smart enough to understand. I'm a blip on the radar when it comes to Milford, a blip. All the tradition that came before us, are you
Think
kidding
about
me?
it. We all are.
You know? I
Because
mean,
the only reason we're here is the people that came before us.
absolutely. Here's what I tell the kids now. We're trying to live up to what we used to be.
just-
That's what we want to be. We
I'm
wanna
just paying
be-
back.
That's it. We want to wear this with pride and really just honor the folks that came before us. And they take that seriously. Having that wall of fame, the Hall of Fame and the Wall of Fame inside the athletic, you know, foyer the way we have it, and I had nothing to do with that, nothing at
but
all.
you can build on it.
We build on it. You know, Nick's done a tremendous job.
Adding
of that.
our little trophy case
It's huge.
is one little cog, but
It's
it's,
just
one we can be proud of.
You walk in and you're proud, and you know it really does hit you. I want to be part of something
Well,
great. You
I
know?
hope that we've dispelled some of the urban legends. It's amazing what's available to Milford, you know, all throughout. And if you didn't notice, I have my Mama Spallone socks on that we got down at Spallone's. Can't go wrong. You know, again, a family that takes care of our kids, takes care of old
sure.
men. That's what Milford's about. You know, every kid. I got 4,200 kids in the system and proud of each and every one for probably 4,200 different reasons.
Absolutely.
You know, get to know it, get out there, support our kids. Town meeting is always, I mean, we had this argument about what was mandated. And I remember getting up saying, you know, I never needed anybody from Beacon Hill or Capitol Hill to tell me how to take care of Milford kids. Town meeting always knows how to and somehow comes up with it. So as always, may God bless. To our 6 loyal viewers, thanks for joining. Good night. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight.
Awesome.
Not too long since I've been home.
Huge.
Running my life just